And welcome to Durbania Live. Cody Leach is joining me live. How you doing, Cody Leach?
Hello, Durban and Durbanians.
Well, we are going to do a very special State of the DCU. It's been a little while since we've done State of the DCEU, and so now we are going to be doing it live to talk about Aquaman and the state of the DCEU after Aquaman. So, Cody, tell us a little bit about yourself and where we can find you.
All right, I just shared it. All right, guys. So, my channel name is the same as my human name, Cody Leach. So very easy to find. But I do a lot of the same things that Durbin does. I do movie reviews. I do ranking videos, some other stuff once in a while. But mostly it's a horror focused channel. But I don't just do horror. I do comic book movies like the ones we're going to be talking about. I'll do the random, off the cuff review once in a while. I try to review as many new releases as I can, but it is a horror focused channel. So if you're a horror fan, there's plenty over there. I've already reviewed the Nightmare on Elm Street series, the Halloween series, Friday the 13th, Scream, Child's Play. I've already got a lot under my belt. So come on over and we'll have some fun.
Nice. Yes. Sorry, I'm getting my live chat all figured out right now. So that's always
Oh
fun.
yeah, I need to do that as well.
Yes.
Yeah,
There we go.
we're gonna be talking just kind of at ourselves for a minute while we let everybody get in and we're getting our chat brought up and everything. But once we get
Yes.
everything
So
rolling.
please come on in and join us live. I'll give you a quick little rundown of the three main things that I kind of wanted to bring up between Cody and myself, and then have you guys join us and anything else you want to add since we're here live and we're talking DCEU. Let's do this. So, first thing I want to kind of go over is the state of the DCEU after Aquaman. Is Aquaman a good tone and a good feel for the future of the DCEU? And I got my own different questions from articles and things I read about that today. And then after that, as I lost my picture here that had my stuff on it, and there it is. Okay. I love live. And should the DCEU shy away from its past? So that's another question I want to bring up and talk about. Justice League really wasn't super great, and lots of people 50-50 on Man of Steel and stuff. So should DCEU retcon everything, or should it be bold and be like, no, this is our past and we are growing from here? Thirdly, I want to talk a little bit about Matt Reeves' The Batman, which should lead into all kinds of awesome talk, like Wonder Woman 84, should lead into other talk about Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, because honestly, those three things we know nothing about. We just kind of know they exist or they're going to exist. But, as we're talking about the future of the DCU and we're talking about its future tone, I just figured, why not? These are great topics for us to dive into there. So, all right.
Agreed.
All right, well, let's get going here. Cody Leach, let's kick this off with you. We both reviewed Aquaman on our channel, so we probably don't have to go into a deep overview of our thoughts of Aquaman and stuff. But what did you think of Aquaman's tone, and how do you think that tone fits the DCEU?
I think that the tone made for a very fun, enjoyable movie. The only thing that worries me about the tone is that that's going to be kind of the template tone going forward. People hate when you make this comparison, but it's the most obvious comparison to make because DC and Marvel are the most closely related things in comic books. It feels like they're going for a more MCU style tone, having a little bit more fun, adventure, a lot of comedy, a little bit more of a lighthearted tone. When the DCEU started out, it was anything but that. It was going for more dark, a lot more grounded, a little bit more mythic, and stuff like that. Going for a lot more stakes, I guess. When Batman v Superman and Man of Steel was going on, it felt like when people were getting decimated, it felt like there was some gravity there. I mean, there's probably hundreds of people that die in the Avengers that we don't even think about because it's just like, ooh, pretty colors.
Yeah,
But
that's so
and I love
true.
the MC. I love the MCU. I'll state that because I always have to have that little PSA. I'm a fan of both. But
Yes.
but yeah, as far as the tone of Aquaman, I had an absolute blast with the movie. I thought that Jason Momoa and his comedy, for the most part, was really good. The movie had a great adventurous tone. It felt like an origin story. Then it kind of felt like an Indiana Jones adventure, kind of go and find these, this relic of this, trident. And then it kind of ended up more into a king and his kingdom and that kind of adventure movie. So I really liked the tone for this movie. And I wouldn't hate it if they brought this tone back for an Aquaman 2, obviously. My
Oh
only
yeah.
worry, like I said, is just that Aquaman, the tone is going to become the DCEU tone, and I don't think the DCEU needs to do that.
And I totally agree. Actually, Comic Chats said something I really agree with. He said right here in the chat, I think Aquaman is a good tone and feel for the DCEU, but I hope the Batman has a more crime noir feel. Basically, I think the DCEU movie should have different feels and genres for each character. And I actually 100% agree, because I think Aquaman, like what we got in that movie, was the perfect tone for Aquaman. And I think like that dark and gritty, I feel like the tone of Batman versus Superman is not the problem with that movie. I feel
it's
like
the last thing wrong with it.
Oh yeah, I think that's actually perfection. I loved the tone and the grit and the feel of Batman versus Superman. What I didn't like was them rushing to the death of Superman. I didn't feel like, I mean, I think Wonder Woman was like one of the things that shined the most in BVS, but it still felt like they were just shoving more characters in there to build a universe as fast as they could. That's my biggest problem with BVS. But I agree that I think Aquaman had a great tone. I agree with you. And I said that in my review. I love that Indiana Jones adventure tone feel. It fit that character. It fit the epic scope of that kingdom, because we want to explore the seven seas and see the seven kingdoms. We want to see the old Sand Kingdom as he goes and explores. We do want kind of that Marvel style humor, because, well, everything we're seeing is kind of silly, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. So we just want to embrace the kind of silliness and inherent fun in what is that whole thing. So I feel like that tone is perfect for Aquaman 2 or 3 or any sequels they produce. But yeah, I think Batman needs a darker, gritty tone. And what I liked about Man of Steel was the real world feel. Everybody afraid of Superman. How does a man like that exist in our world? I love Zack Snyder's exploration of Superman in Man of Steel. I thought that was great. I get what everybody says, though. It would have been cooler if he had a bit more joy. It would have been cooler, like, you know, if it was more true to his character like that. But yeah, I just think each character probably should have their own unique tone. And that's, I don't know. Do you agree with that?
I do. I mean, I feel like he had plenty of moments of joy in Man of Steel. I just feel like they kind of get overlooked. Like even the scene with it when, you know, she's talking about the S, and he's kind of smiling. He's like, it's not an S in my world. It means hope. And, you know, and he's kind of giving that hopeful thing. I think they just carried it a little too far into Batman v Superman, where everything was so kind of down and somber because of the tone they were going for and the story they were going for, where the world is turned on Superman. So I think sometimes a little bit of that darkness criticism of BVS kind of bleeds into Man of Steel for people that maybe haven't rewatched Man of Steel recently. But if Man of Steel, agreed. I feel like that it's a perfect tone for Superman if they would keep that. Wonder Woman had a really good tone. It had a nice balance of kind of that mythic feel, but also having a little bit more lighthearted, a little bit more fun. And Aquaman, like you said, everything is going on. You either have to embrace how silly it is, or you're going to fall on your face. So they have to kind of go a little bit with Aquaman, and we'll see, because we have Shazam coming next. It's going to have a silly tone as well. So I'm just worried about mostly Batman, and just like what what our viewer, I forgot his name, was it Comic Book, or where's it at Comic Chats, like exactly what Comic Chats was saying. Like when we get to the Matt Reeves Batman, is it going to feel like Aquaman? You know what I mean? That's going to be the big. That's going to be where the pendulum's going to swing. Is it going to feel like a template, or does it feel like they're just kind of going for the more lighthearted movies to try to get the narrative of the DCEU changed for a while before they start diving back into that darker stuff, now that they've got everybody back on board?
Yeah. And so that's kind of interesting, because I'm kind of overlapping our segments here a little bit, but I was reading today about Matt Reeves, and he turned in recently a new draft of the Batman script, and apparently he pumped it up with more action, which is awesome because it's Batman and I want to see more action. And so, yeah, if they can keep it dark and gritty, because that's what Batman is, then I'll be fine. And Ryan O'Toole had just said here, talking about how Man of Steel, Wonder Woman, and now Aquaman, like the solo movies are solid. And I agree. And I feel like all the solo movies have different feels. Like Man of Steel has a different feel than Wonder Woman, and Aquaman has a different feel than the other two. And so it's like, I think that's a good pattern for DC and then I don't know what the tone should be, though, for Justice League, which is what makes me so sad.
They didn't know either, apparently.
No, nobody.
1 minute was this tone, 1 minute was this tone.
So I read something interesting today, Cody, about Aquaman, and it was this interview with Jason Momoa. And in this interview, he said he's talking about the end of the Snyder Cut. And the end of the Snyder Cut of Justice League, when Aquaman is saying goodbye to the League, apparently Volko and Mira come up to him and say, "We need you," and he decides he needs to go see his father first, so he gets into the back of a pickup truck and leaves, and that's where Justice League ends. But apparently, the whole thing with the sub and all that stuff in the Aquaman movie, that is literally the transition from Justice League into that movie. So it's only days from Justice League into Aquaman. And I just thought, well, that's interesting, because that means in all of this DCEU drama where Justice League was cut up into a million pieces, where Suicide Squad cut up into a million pieces, apparently Aquaman was untouched. And so I'm like, fascinating about that. So either way, it feels like this Aquaman tone fit with whatever they were doing with Justice League.
Yeah, and that was leaving it untouched was one of the main things that made me have a lot of faith in it. I wasn't really on its surface level. I was probably interested in Aquaman the least out of any of the Justice League characters, but the fact that James Wan was directing it, for one, because I don't think the guy's ever directed even a mediocre movie, and the fact that, at least from what we can tell from the news or the little news reports and everything that we usually see every 5 minutes with the DCEU, that Aquaman is like the only movie that has had no drama. So all the way leading up to it, I'm like, this movie has to be good, right? But yeah, the fact that it kind of fits in with Zack Snyder's tone, it's funny. Jason Momoa, he's like the biggest cheerleader for that Snyder cut getting released. I really hope he succeeds with it too.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, but it shows you that there was a cohesive vision. It just felt like the studio just had no idea where they wanted to go, what they wanted to do. And I feel like we'll never know until we actually see it, but I feel like Justice League, if it was a nice transition into where Aquaman was going to go, then that might have been, if it had just been left alone from the beginning, it might have been a perfect transition for the fans too, from their issues with BVS, kind of transitioning into these singular stories. But we guess we'll never find out, or I hopefully maybe we will in 15 years or something like that.
I think we're about a good 20 years away from the Snyder Cut, because if Warner Brothers released it now, that's them kind of admitting to the crazy fans that, yeah, we were wrong and we should have at least let the vision play out, even if we want to distance ourselves from Snyder. Which, this is a great segue into the next question that I had. Should the DCEU just retcon, or should they be firm and strong and acknowledge their past? What are your thoughts on that, Cody?
Well, I think that the last time we did this State of the DCEU, I'm pretty sure at the end I had read something along the lines that Aquaman, Shazam, and Wonder Woman 84 were going to be like soft reboots, and they were going to ignore everything that came before.
And we got into, you specifically mentioned that with Wonder Woman, so, and you had me watch that video. So like I kind of saw that clip where they said Wonder Woman was just a movie and not really a sequel, which was weird.
Yes. Well, it sounded really weird, and I didn't know how to feel about it, and you didn't know how to feel about it when we were reading that. But now that I've seen Aquaman, Aquaman is basically that. It's just a movie that exists, but except for one little blink and you'll miss it line where she references Steppenwolf for a half second, the movie really doesn't acknowledge anything that came before it. So it's basically a standalone film that still is in the universe, doesn't really retcon anything, but doesn't necessarily waste time or effort trying to tie itself to anything. And it worked. So if they want to do that for the next 3 or 4 films, just focus on standalone stuff, kind of build their foundation back up with great characters and great singular movies, and make a great Wonder Woman sequel, make a really good Shazam movie, possibly even go into the Matt Reeves Batman, and don't really focus on the whole greater scope and greater picture of the universe and how things are going to tie in, what's going to lead into this. Does this mean that Crisis on Infinite Earths is coming in a year? None of that stuff. Just build your characters back up, regain everybody's trust, regain everybody's fandom, gain your momentum financially and critically, and then 2022, then you can start doing a Batman Superman team up movie, or you could do a Flash and Cyborg. You could start slowly kind of getting back into that wider scope a little at a time. And I'm cool with it now. I don't think that they should retcon it. I don't want to see any Back to the Future where they get into the fucking car, or get into the car and then go go back and they go back.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And wipe everything out, before Aquaman or anything like that. But I don't necessarily think that they need to spend a lot of time reminding us that they haven't done it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Keep it in the same universe and everything, but just kind of keep your distance. Let it kind of let the dust settle, and then kind of go back and maybe revisit some things.
And I 100% agree with you, Cody. And that to me was the biggest strength of Aquaman. Because you're right, it was a throwaway line. You blink and you miss it. But I was waiting for that line. Like I wanted them to be courageous and just acknowledge that this exists in the universe. I didn't need any major tie-in or anything like that. I just wanted an acknowledgement of it, and I got it. And one quick line. And then the whole movie was just about Aquaman. And it built him up. It built up his universe. And that's where the DCEU strength has been. When Man of Steel didn't worry about a universe and it just gave us Superman, it was brilliant. When Wonder Woman was a prequel and it wasn't really worried, except for the beginning, the intro, and the outro, when it really wasn't worried about building up a universe and all that stuff, and it just gave us Wonder Woman, it was brilliant. And so that is the one thing I think they've missed. And I think that's one of the great strengths of DC, though. You don't have to do it like Marvel. Build up each hero by itself in almost a self-contained world and then bring them together. I agree. If we wait till about 2022 and just do excellent movies like Aquaman and keep it at that Aquaman level, but each with their own respective tones, we're going to be great. And that Matt Reeves thing sounds like a prequel, so we probably won't be having a ton of tie-ins.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. I don't know what they're going to do with that. I don't know if it's going to be, that's the biggest question mark. Is like, is it going to be a prequel where they make sure that it is actually going to fit into where, the Ben Affleck Batman wound up in the couple of movies that we've already seen? Or is it going to be them kind of being a prequel or just a past Batman movie that could be, but maybe isn't? I don't know. The Batman is the biggest question mark right now. It's been for 2 years.
That's a great segue into the last topic here that I want to talk about is like those question marks, specifically Matt Reeves, the Batman. I'm very curious. Like, I mean, I've heard it's a trilogy. I've heard so many things. Is Ben Affleck in? Is Ben Affleck out? I'm amazed that drama still exists. And now we kind of drew Henry Cavill into it a little bit, even though Jason Momoa says insistently Cavill is still in, which makes me very happy because I want to see another Henry Cavill-led Superman. But I don't even know what to say on this topic. It's such a mystery. And on the one hand, I kind of like that. It's kind of nice to not hear drama. It's kind of nice to not know what we're going to get from this Batman. But I have to be honest with you, Cody. I'd love it if it wasn't a prequel. I'd love it if it was Ben Affleck, because I do like his interpretation of Batman. And I would love it if we could just move forward. I mean, how cool would it be if the surprise is they're taking the Arkham games and turning those into movies? That would freaking blow my mind.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I'm just really worried about this Batman thing because it just seems like no news should be good news, but it's been no news for years now, and that's usually not a good sign. You know what I mean? Like Batman is one of those things, like just like with Superman, which it seems like they have equally less interest in doing anything with Superman right now, but. I don't know. It feels like one of those projects, even though everybody swears it's still happening. They swear Matt Reeves is turning in drafts. Matt Reeves hasn't really said anything. It feels like one of those projects that randomly we get some news report on a Tuesday afternoon that says Matt Reeves drops from Batman or something like that. And now it's just kind of, out there. It seems like what's taken so long? You know what I mean? Like, if you don't want to release it right away, if you want to kind of rebuild the foundation first, that's fine. But say that, you know what I mean? Say Batman working towards a 2021 release date or anything like that. But it just seems odd that nothing has come out of this. For a second there, they were saying something that the Penguin is either going to be the villain in this or the Birds of Prey movie or whatever that ends up being called. And then that kind of went away, and they were talking about Penguin maybe being in it for the Birds of Prey. But then we might have been talking about that in the last DCEU, where it's like, if you don't know who your villain is, how great is your script if you could just kind of insert villain here? So, and I just don't know how long it takes to get a great Batman script rolling. I can understand if it just, honestly, DC and WB and whoever's in charge of this just doesn't like what they have so far and they don't want to slip with Batman. I get it. But it just feels like somebody should let us know something. You know what I mean? Let us know. Really does. Let us know Batman's okay. You know what I mean?
But did you hear that, Warner Brothers? Let us know Batman's okay. Give us something. Something. No, I totally agree.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to the Batman very much. There was a long time there where it was so tiresome with all the Batman announcements that I almost didn't want a Batman movie the rest of my life because every 5 minutes was like Ben Affleck's in, Ben Affleck's out, Ben Affleck's in, Ben Affleck's out. Matt Reeves is in, maybe he's not. It's part of the DCEU, it's not part of the DCEU, and every day was like an announcement
Oh
and then a
man.
retraction, announcement,
Yes.
retraction. But yeah, with it being a prequel, it depends. I'm fine with a younger Batman, but I mean Ben Affleck is not like old. You know what I
No.
mean? Like the dude's obviously he's in his 40s, but Ben Affleck doesn't look like he's in his 40s. You know what I mean? Like you could
Yeah.
pass off a Batman with Ben Affleck that you could say is in his 30s. So I mean, how young are you going to go that is still going to have that suspension of disbelief that this guy is going to become Ben Affleck? And they're going to obviously pick a very prestigious actor. It's going to be somebody like Jake Gyllenhaal or somebody that everybody knows. Are you going to be
I
able to
don't
cast?
want it to be Jake Gyllenhaal. It better not be Jake Gyllenhaal as Batman.
It might not be.
No.
I'm just saying, but it's going to be somebody of that caliber. It's going to be
I know,
somebody that
yeah.
everybody knows. They're not going to go get Joe Blow to play Batman. So if you have somebody like a Jake Gyllenhaal, are we going to be able to have that suspension of disbelief that this person is Batman, but eventually he becomes Ben Affleck? That's where the questions, and you kind of get yourself in a little bit of trouble with the prequel idea. But it depends. It depends on what story they're going for. I feel
Yeah.
like they can do a Ben Affleck movie or a Ben Affleck Batman movie just fine and not acknowledge the mistakes, not have to tie in all do exactly what Aquaman did, as long as Ben Affleck's on for it. I think he's either in rehab or just got out of rehab. So as long as the stars align and he's not still actively trying to get out of the DCEU, who knows? Maybe it's been enough time and enough distance where he's kind of warmed up to staying, or the dust has settled, it's under new management. Maybe he's better. Maybe he will let the fact that his script isn't getting made go. I don't know, but I feel like they could do that if they wanted to do a Ben Affleck Batman movie. That's what I would prefer them to do. But if they're going to do a prequel, it just depends on what story they're going for and how easily it's going to fit into the universe. Because then if they do the prequel story, how many prequel stories are we going to get? We're going to get prequels for the rest of our Batman career because it's not going to be Ben Affleck. It just brings up a lot of questions.
Yeah, it really does, which is why I would really like it if they don't go the prequel route. If they do go the prequel route, and I don't know who would agree or disagree with this, but I would
Hmm.
almost rather they pick an unknown for Batman. That would
Yeah.
be preferable to me than you get some star and then all the fans give a massive outcry. We hate that star and he can never do it. And then he does a great job and they say nobody could have done it like that star. It's like, I just don't want to go through that again. Give me
Hmm.
an unknown so we have no expectations. That would be awesome. But
Hmm.
far preferable to me, I loved, like I said earlier, the tone of Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice. I loved Ben Affleck's portrayal of Batman. I didn't like that Batman was a killer, but that's because I felt
Hmm.
like we're missing a whole half of his character arc that
Yeah.
led him to that dark space. And if I got that, I probably feel a lot better about it. But my gosh, if we just bring in Matt Reeves and he brings in the tone he has from War for the Planet of the Apes, and we continue forward from Justice League with a
Hmm.
Ben Affleck Batman, that to me would be the dream. That would
Hmm.
be what I'd want to see. And I don't know. That's what I want. A lot of people are talking about Birds of Prey here in the comments. What are your thoughts on Birds of Prey?
I don't care about it honestly. It
Neither do
feels like they're just appealing to Margot Robbie and her kind of star right now because she's kind of the it girl. Everybody loved her as Harley Quinn, regardless of what you think about Suicide Squad. I think she's the one thing that pretty much everybody walked away saying, "More of that, please."
Yep.
So it's probably going to be cool as long as they take the time with it. But the issue with that is that I'm tired of movies giving me Batman villains that don't have Batman in them. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like Suicide
Yes.
Squad, we got Killer Croc, we got all these other villains and everything, Deadshot. We're gonna get a Suicide Squad 2 eventually. We got Birds of Prey. I don't want to see all of these new, hopefully great incarnations of these classic Batman characters without Batman around. You know what I mean? Like if they're doing it to introduce characters that are eventually going to be used in a grander scope of like Batman movies or something like that, that's fine. But they're obviously trying to stay away from bigger scopes right now. So
Yeah.
it should be okay. I've never read any Birds of Prey comics. I don't know how I feel about another movie focusing on Harley Quinn where she's kind of a bad guy but kind of not. I want my Harley Quinn and my Joker to be straight up evil.
I
So
do too. Yeah.
So I don't know. That's another big question mark. It used to be, what was it, Gotham City Sirens. As soon as they announced that, I was like, this
Oh
is
man.
stupid. Nobody's asking for this. And then it was, it's the same thing with Joker. It's like, okay, so they were going to do Gotham City Sirens. Now it's Birds of Prey. There's still talk of a Harley Quinn and Joker film. So it's just like there all these ideas still floating out there with these characters, but where the hell's Batman? You know what I mean?
Yes.
I want Batman around. We can do all these stories. They're great. That's awesome. But I want Batman involved. It's just like the whole argument everybody had with doing a Venom movie without Spider-Man. It's like, okay, you can try, but I want Spider-Man in it.
Yes. And you know what? That Venom movie, it was okay. But
Hmm.
now, can we get Spider-Man involved in it? Because that's the thing. Venom and Spider-Man. Like it's cool to see those two together fighting. And I don't
Hmm.
know. I feel like the Suicide Squad 2 talk, Birds of Prey talk, it's DCEU doubling down on their worst idea. And their worst
Hmm.
idea to me was Suicide Squad. I thought that
Hmm.
movie was just horrible on almost every freaking level. And you and I have talked about it, where they even
Hmm.
did the extended version and it made it worse.
Hmm.
It was worse than the extended cut. But their idea is let's double down on that because, well, people liked Will Smith as Deadshot and they liked Margot Robbie. So let's just double down. Like, no, stop, stop. We want more Harley. We want more Deadshot. But it's just like what you're saying. Give us that with Batman.
Hmm.
And this concern of building up all these villains without Batman continues with Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker. And somebody asked that in here, like, what do we think of the Joker movie? And personally, my thoughts are I think Joaquin Phoenix will probably do really good. I feel like
Hmm.
a lot of the footage that they keep on releasing and the pictures, I think all of that looks really, really good. But it's interesting that we have a Joker in his 40s and Batman's a kid.
Hmm.
So that's where my concern is. It's not that I don't think this will be a bad movie. I think it'll probably be a good movie. I think Joaquin Phoenix will pull it off in such a way that will be like, why couldn't he have been the Joker from the beginning, which will make us
Hmm.
even madder at things. But it's
Hmm.
just like, what's going to happen when Batman grows up? Is he going to fight a senior citizen? Like that's the one thing that's always in the back of my mind. It's not like
Hmm.
a Joker origin movie is a bad idea to me, but when, like you said, when you do it without Batman, what's the future?
Exactly. Real quick, Ryan O'Toole, I totally agree with you because I loved Suicide Squad when I saw it in the theaters, and every single time I've rewatched it, I've disliked it almost a complete letter grade down.
Yes.
But yeah, that's the thing. I am very excited for this Joker movie because everything that I've seen from it has looked good. Everything that I have heard about it seems like they're doing what should be done. It seems like they're on the right track. Seems like they have a really cool idea. And I do like the idea that even though we have this extended universe, that we still have the ability to tell these little standalone Elseworld stories. Because so those are some of the coolest stories in comic books, like
Oh
Old
yeah,
Man
Elseworld
Logan.
stories are cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like Logan last year was my favorite movie of the year. That was a completely, I mean, it somewhat tied in with the universe, but for the
Yeah.
most part, it was a standalone movie. And I don't like the thought that, well, okay, let's put all the DC characters together, let's put all the Marvel characters together, and unless it has something to do with the overall universe, we're not going to talk about it. I don't like restricting creativity like that. But
I agree.
on the flip side of that coin, everything that you just said, I expect Joaquin Phoenix I can almost bet money just because from the history of watching Joaquin Phoenix act, that when people walk out of this movie, the conversation is going to be who's better, Heath Ledger or Joaquin Phoenix. And you're going to have
Yep.
probably 50-50.
Notice you didn't
Uh,
say Jared Leto at all. Who's
no,
better,
I
Jared?
didn't.
No,
I
it's
didn't
going to
at
be
all.
between those two, and we'll forget our Suicide Squad, Jared Leto, who was supposed to be part of this DCEU.
Yeah, and that's the other problem. So let's say they gave us this great movie, which we know for a fact is going to be a standalone because Joaquin Phoenix and his history, just like his acting, is that he does not do sequels. He does not do franchises. He does not do anything like that. That's the reason why he is not Doctor Strange right now, and Benedict Cumberbatch is. So
Right.
he signed on to this because, okay, this is a cool character. I see something in the script. I want to play this. I want to bring this character to life once. And that's it. I extremely doubt any amount of money is going to change his mind in that regard. And I respect that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, let's say he comes out and does what I expect he's going to do and what you expect he's going to do and what most people that know Joaquin Phoenix and his acting caliber think that he is going to do, and he knocks it out of the park. Well, now you're going to have everybody clamoring for more Joaquin Phoenix Joker and even less approval for Jared Leto's Joker, which
Yep.
is in fact our carrying on Joker for the rest of this franchise unless they reboot it, or unless they, do a quick little casting change on him and try to, take away the tattoos and the grill and everything and hope nobody notices. But they're already talking about a Joker movie with just him, and talking about, the Harley and Joker movie. So they have plans for this Jared Leto Joker. I haven't heard any news about him not wanting to come back. So that's the only thing that I'm worried about, because just like
Yeah.
Batman, I don't want a Batman universe where we don't have a Joker because everybody didn't like their first attempt at it. You know what I mean? I don't want them to carry on with Batman and we never see Joker because they want to do, well, the Jared Leto Joker, most people thought he sucked, so we don't even want to revisit that. So we'll just do Penguin, and we'll do Deadshot, and we'll do Killer Croc, and we'll do Black Mask. And then the next 7 Batman movies have nothing to do with Joker, and Joker is nowhere to be found. I don't want that either. You know what I mean? So it creates a lot of possibilities, but it also creates just as many questions. Are we going to be able to carry on with this Jared Leto Joker and not dislike him even more? I know there are people that like him. I didn't hate him. I just didn't get to see enough of him. But are we going to be able to carry on with this Joker if Joaquin Phoenix gives us the best Joker we've ever had?
If Joaquin Phoenix gives us the best Joker we've ever had, this is just me speaking from me. Mm-hmm. No, I'm done with the Jared Leto Joker.
Yeah.
It's funny because, like, kind of like you said, every time you watch Suicide Squad, you go down a letter grade. I haven't been able to go back to that movie, and I don't even know how long.
It's been years for me too.
Yeah, and just Jared Leto, like, at first I agreed with you. I didn't get enough to have an opinion of him one way or the other. Mm-hmm. But one of the last times I watched it, I kept hearing his, that snort thing that he does. Like, and I'm just like, I mean, I know the Joker's weird and has weird things like it, but that just kept irking me. And maybe it's because I dislike Suicide Squad. So subconsciously, I'm deciding to dislike everything about it. So I'm finding things to irritate me. Or it could be I just really don't like Jared Leto's Joker, and I don't like his spin on that. Rewind Replay said, what if he is the first Joker and Leto's is a second copycat style Joker?
That makes me like him even less.
Yes, because we do have that in a Batman story. Yeah,
now he's just a wannabe. You know what I mean? So I don't know if the comic books has ever had something like that where you have like Batman and Nightwing, but Joker. You had the first Joker, then you had the second Joker. I feel like Joker's always been Joker, but that would make me like him even less, because I'd be like, okay, when's the real Joker coming around? It's just like the thing that we always talk about with Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor. Okay, when's Lex Luthor Senior coming around? You know what I mean? We don't want that.
And that's what I
Joker.
want. Yeah. And I want Lex Luthor Senior to come around. Like, if we're gonna bring another Superman movie in here, which I hope we do. I know Henry Cavill's busy with The Witcher and a couple other things, but I really want him and WB to come to terms. And I want a movie here soon, because I would like to see little Lex Luthor Jr. eat it, and then his daddy, played by Bryan Cranston or somebody else who's epic, step in and be the real Lex Luthor. Because you're right, that is a problem now, because if it turns out that Jared Leto's the real Joker, not Jared Leto, if he's the second Joker and Joaquin Phoenix is the real Joker, then we're just going to watch it in even more anger. At least I know I will, because it's like, no, I want the real Joker.
I think what would be cool, and this is playing devil's advocate on the slightest of possibilities that Joaquin Phoenix would even consider coming back. What would be cool is if, let's say, they give him, a truckload of money and say, dude, please be our Joker in this universe. You don't have to be in every movie. You could do the Robert Downey Jr. thing. You could just pop up here and there. Okay, cool, I'll do it. And then they write a story in somehow that the Jared Leto Joker that we have seen, and probably will see at least once more, is actually Jason Todd. And let's say he gets killed, or the Joker comes back and actually takes him out, or something. Like he was Jason Todd, because they kind of touched on that in BVS, but didn't really give us enough. And they're probably not going to do a Death of the Family storyline. Maybe they are. Maybe that's what Matt Reeves' script is. Who knows? But that would be cool, just to kind of keep the comic book lore going. Like, okay, that was Jason Todd after Joker tortured him and made him go nuts. And then, Daddy's coming home. Joaquin Phoenix comes back. This is operating under the fact that he does great. Maybe he's terrible, and we're like, okay, bring Jared Leto back. Come on.
Oh, man. Yeah, but that would be kind of cool to have, like, the real Joker come back and take out this copycat. So that would be an interesting plot. But you're right. That's really thin, because then you'd have to, hope against hope that Joaquin Phoenix would break his one rule for this, that he would decide this character was that interesting that he would come back. I did propose that theory in one of my videos that perhaps the Jared Leto Joker was Jason Todd, but then there's a chance that it's Dick Grayson, because have you seen the stuff where you know, Zack Snyder posting on all his stuff that it could be you know, that it was Dick Grayson that he meant, that outfit that had the words on it was Dick Grayson's. Like,
I mean,
I don't know if that.
I've seen a lot of things where people have asked him questions on things and they post it in the official, like, Zack Snyder's answered this question. Like, yeah, it was this person, or, you know, I was going to go this direction, or this was my idea. And at the same time, I'm kind of like, that's interesting to hear what he was going to do. But at the same time, it's so what? You know, he's not in charge of the movies anymore. They obviously didn't want to go his direction. So even though that's where he would have went, and even though maybe in his movie that was Dick Grayson's armor up there, they could easily just, no, it's Jason Todd because we wrote it this way in the sequel and it's our movie. You know what I mean? So it's interesting to hear, but I would never use it as like a rule or a, you know, a plot hole or anything like that, because Zack Snyder said in a chat board one time.
Yeah, that's what's really hard, because so many rumors get started by stuff like that. So I want to dive into some of these questions. One of the ones, I cannot remember who left it because it's really far up on the thread, but they asked, what do you think of the Green Lantern Corps movie, that they started writing the Green Lantern Corps movie? So what do you think about that, Cody, that they started writing that?
I mean, eventually we do need a Green Lantern Corps movie. I would say they can take their time with that one, because I think we need to have, as weird as Aquaman's world was, I don't think we're ready to incorporate space travel in the DC just yet, and the cosmic universe and all that kind of stuff. So I think we should definitely start writing it now. Start hammering out, do a couple passes on the script, maybe get some actors lined up to play the various Green Lanterns, because I think it would be cool to go ahead and give us all the Green Lantern. You know, give us John Stewart, give us Guy Gardner, give us Hal Jordan, all in the same movie. You know what I mean? Don't just pick one and then leave everybody's favorites out. Like, have kind of like a Mission Impossible style thing where you have a team and you have, you know, characters that are going to come back. I think that'll be very cool eventually, but I also, like I said, they can take their time with that one, I think.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm a little spoiled because I read the graphic novel Green Lantern Earth 1. And the rumors I've heard are that it's like a buddy cop movie, the Green Lantern Corps, that it's, you know, going to be Hal Jordan, it's going to be John Stewart, it's going to be buddy cop and all that stuff, which I think that definitely has an appeal to it and it could be fun. But since I read Green Lantern Earth 1, the tone of that completely fits the DCEU, and it fits the DCEU in another way, because you had Steppenwolf has said no lanterns and no guardians and things like that. And what's interesting about the Earth 1 graphic novel is it's a post-Green Lantern Corps world, or universe. There is no more Green Lantern Corps. It's fallen apart, and Hal Jordan stumbles across the ring and ends up having to put the Corps back together with the help of Kilowog himself. And it's a darker tone in that comic book. It's a very intense storyline. And so I feel like, and I'm sure, you know, everybody at Warner Brothers watches this stuff, and so I'm sure they're right now taking huge notes like, all right, Durbin and Cody, let's do this. But I think that the Green Lantern Corps movie should not be a buddy cop movie. I really think they need to go to the Green Lantern Earth 1 graphic novel, and they need to make that into a full-length movie.
Yeah. I'll say this to all the WB execs watching right now. Pause this video and go watch a little video called Pitch Wars. Take your notes on that first.
That is a good
one. But yeah, I've read a couple of Green Lantern comics. I read Green Lantern Rebirth, and it definitely, especially when they start getting into Parallax and all that kind of stuff, it definitely goes into more of a darker, epic tone. So I would be totally for them going for that. And at the same time, if they could find a good way to do it, I'm totally for a buddy cop movie too, if they're going to do like a galaxy buddy cop movie. But they also said that idea back whenever we were going to be getting, you know, a Cyborg movie and a Flash movie and all this other stuff. So I think the tone and I think the plans have changed quite a bit. So who knows what direction they're going.
Yeah. I wish we knew more about Wonder Woman 84. I feel like if we had a little bit more insight, like what's coming up for us here in Wonder Woman 84, we could get like kind of more of a pulse for the tone, because Shazam is going to be ridiculous, which is cool, and it should be, and I'm very excited for that. But Wonder Woman 84, I feel like is going to be like the real pulse here after Aquaman. Like, what tone are they going after? And I wish we had a lot more information on that one.
Exactly. Guys in the chat, if you want to start chiming in some questions, we'll start asking those.
Flying Gase 1939 says, how do you guys feel about Ben Affleck leaving the Batman role? And I think we're still in the back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, when he first was getting ready to leave and the rumor started, it was like the worst thing ever because we were just kind of getting used to how awesome he was. You know what I mean? This was very close to coming off of BVS and getting ready to start Justice League. And whenever all these rumors started that he's trying to find a way out, and we were all like, no, no, Ben. But then there was 2 years of just back and forth. Okay, Ben doesn't want to do it. Ben's trying to find a way out. He's going to be his last movie here. And then he shows up at Comic-Con. No, I love this character. I'm going to be here for the rest of my life. And it was so much back and forth to the point where I kind of got numb to it personally. I was just like, okay, whatever. If you stay, awesome. If you go, awesome. Just make a decision. So either way, still, like, I think Ben Affleck is awesome. I think what he gave to Batman was awesome. And I think if they could harness that with an really good script, then it would be even better. And so if they could come up with that script and he has enough faith in current management at WB to stay, then that would probably be best case scenario for me. But if they have a really good idea to kind of go back and tell stories that will kind of be just as good as what we would have gotten with Ben Affleck with somebody else that is happy and wants to be in the role, I'm fine with that too.
Yeah. So let's see. Got a good question here. What do you guys think of the new Joker makeup? So what do you think, Cody?
I like it. It has a little bit of a simple throwback kind of Ronald McDonald feel to it. I'm gonna have to see it in motion. Just based off of a picture, it's not necessarily how I would draw Joker if I was the one doing the makeup. It doesn't look as sinister to me. It looks more just kind of standard clown, which might be terrifying when we actually see it in motion, which is why I got to see the movie. Because, a lot of people didn't like the fact that Heath Ledger was going to have a Glasgow smile. They're like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. It's makeup. It's not, there's no scars there. And can you imagine Heath Ledger's Joker of The Dark Knight without the scars now? You know what I mean?
Oh, it was brilliant.
Yeah. So I got to see it in motion. I'm on the fence with it. I like it. I don't love it.
See, I really rocked the boat when they released the first picture of his makeup, and I said I didn't like it. And that was my initial reaction. I did not like it initially. I thought it looked kind of weird. And it was that weird close-up picture. And man, did people hate the fact that I said that about a Joker we have never seen, about a Joker that we've never seen in motion. They were just so angry. And I was like, look, I get your anger, and that's cool that you're that passionate about the character. I'm referring to a picture that's not in motion, where we're not getting a full. And then the next day they released that footage. And so seeing him in full outfit kind of coming out of the train, it made me feel better. So I think I do like it. It's very Heath Ledger-esque to me, which I'm not saying is bad or negative. So I like it. I think it's cool, but I 100% agree with you, Cody. We have to see the context of the film and the context of the story to really get the full picture of it and see how that works.
Yep.
Let's see. Is it fair to compare Marvel and DC in the current state?
It's fair to compare Marvel and DC at all times, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a little bit of a devil's advocate aspect of that question where it's like, okay, yeah, DC's struggling right now, and Marvel's been going on for since 2008, I think, and they've been doing pretty much great the entire time, with maybe a couple of slips in the very beginning, which aren't even really huge slips, because I could still watch Iron Man 2 and be totally fine, and that's my least favorite MCU movie. Whereas DC has made at least one terrible movie that I probably won't watch, but maybe one more time my whole life, unless it suddenly just changes in my eyes. So yes, they're totally different narratives, but I think they're close enough to where you could compare them at any time. And I don't think you're being a Marvel hater or a DC hater or a fanboy by comparing the two. I think they're very, it's like Star Wars and Star Trek. And I think Star Wars and Star Trek have even less in common with each other than Marvel and DC do. So
yeah, and it's funny because I love both. I really do, and they definitely borrow from each other.
I do too.
I mean, you got Green Arrow and you got Hawkeye. I mean, you got the Flash, you got Quicksilver, so they definitely borrow from each other. And so, yeah, I think you can compare them at all times. I just think it's difficult now because they're trying to make the tone so different. Marvel more whimsical and DC more dark, but then DC freaked out and now they're trying to go more whimsical. So I don't know. I guess you can compare it at all times. I just feel like they gotta pick what works for them. Caleb Richardson says, how do you guys feel about the CW Arrowverse? And oh wait, it scrolled upward. It scrolled up on me. Okay, hold on. How do you feel about the CW Arrowverse and the how much more successful it's been than the DCEU? I know it's been more successful, but there's a couple of shows on there I can't even watch anymore.
I don't think you can compare at all. Like going back to that last question, because Arrow was very successful when it first started. Flash was very successful when it first started. Arrow has had loads of criticism since. Flash has started to get a lot of criticism the past couple of seasons. I don't think Leagues of what is the League show?
I can't remember. I was letting you talk first so I could try to remember.
Legends of something. But
the Legends of Tomorrow. Yes.
Legends of Tomorrow. Yes. The Legends of Tomorrow, I don't think ever really had that much of a critical success. Supergirl, I don't think has ever really had much of a critical success. They might be successful for TV shows, but you also get like 24 episodes a year to tell your story. So I mean, it's totally different things.
The Arrowverse makes me sad because the first 2 seasons of Arrow were so good. I just there was nothing that could compare to me. And then same with the Flash. The first 2 seasons were so good. It's like nothing could compare it. And then Arrow season 3 started to go downhill. Arrow season 4 was off the hill in a ditch. It was like lying there beaten to a pulp and unconscious. It was just nothing by season 4. And in my eyes, it hasn't even built itself back up. I haven't even watched season 7 yet. I'm going to wait for it all to drop on Netflix and binge it all together. So it's like, and that's what's so heartbreaking to me because I loved it. And I keep wondering if they did the Netflix format, 13 episode seasons. So they have to condense their story, get rid of the freaks of the weeks and the fillers, and just tell their story in a condensed fashion if it would have kept things a bit more on track. And I also wonder if they expanded too fast. I mean, they threw in the Flash and Arrow, and that was kind of cool watching them go back and forth. Then they threw in Legends of Tomorrow. Now you got 3 constantly going back and forth. Then they bought Supergirl from CBS, and now they're going back and forth. And now they got Batwoman thrown in there, and it's like, okay. Shh. So I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Let's see. What's another? Do you see a good question down here, Cody?
Let me scroll real quick.
Yes.
I
like Will Smith. I wish they'd use Michael Rosenblum as Lex, even as a cameo. I would love that.
Lindsay Gardner's got a good one. Do you think it hurts or helps them by casting the older established actors in any of these DC movies?
I think it helps. I mean, I like Ben Affleck. I thought he was great as Batman. And I don't know if Henry Cavill would be considered old and established, but, he didn't portray a young guy stepping out into the world. He portrayed somebody in his 30s, and I thought he did a great job. So
I think Ben Affleck really was the only one who was old and established at the time of casting, because Henry Cavill was, we'd seen him, but nobody really knew who he was until he played Superman. Yeah. Jason Momoa, obviously, all the women knew who he was, and Game of Thrones fans knew who he was. But he wasn't really a household name necessarily, and now he is. Gal Gadot, I mean, that's the prime example right there. No, not only did nobody know who she was, but nobody cared. Oh, the really, really skinny girl from the Fast and Furious franchise. That's who you casted as Wonder Woman. Awesome. That's what everybody was saying. And as soon as she played Wonder Woman, I think for the most part, everybody turned around, and now Gal Gadot, household name. So it's I don't really think the Cyborg guy, who knows if we're going to see him again, but I've never seen him in anything. Ezra Miller, people know Ezra Miller for kind of more artsy. More artsy stuff. But Ben Affleck was really the only one who was like an A-lister, like a really established actor that everybody knows. Everybody knows Ben Affleck. So I think it hurt Ben Affleck only because of the circumstances that we're under now, where he might not stay. Because it's very hard to recast him and make it seem like it's a quick, easy fix, and we're just going to go on. They're going to Don Cheadle him, and we're just going to, okay, I'm here, let it go. So I don't think they can do that with Ben Affleck very easily. I don't think they can do it with really any of them now. But I don't think it hurts them too much. But they just have to be careful. They got to be careful with how A-list they go with the casting going forward. They don't do the thing.
Because A-listers carry so much stigma with them. Like, we see them in so many things. I think that's why everybody flipped out when Ben Affleck was Batman. Not because he's not talented, but because we all have a picture of who Ben Affleck is. And it was hard to see him as Batman, which is why I think it was always so popular to go with an unknown to play Superman in new Superman movies, because then they didn't carry anything with them. It was just a new person. And so, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So I like this one from Wonder This World 97. Will you guys do a Pitch Wars for Man of Steel 2? I don't know, Cody. That is your show. So so will we do a Pitch Wars for Man of Steel 2?
It depends. I've thought about maybe doing another Pitch Wars. I probably wouldn't jump right back into comic books. The problem I had with Pitch Wars, that's one of my favorite videos that I've ever done. The one that we did. I think that
It was such a blast.
it was a blast to shoot. It was a blast to edit. I think it's a masterpiece of a video, and I love both of our ideas for the scripts. I could put that video on and just get sucked into it, and it's an hour and a half long, and I don't even care. The problem with Pitch Wars is that it's by far the most labor intensive thing that I've ever done, as far as editing and shooting and, writing the script and figuring out where I'm going to block it out, what part I'm going to share first and everything. And they didn't really get too many views. Now the narrative's changed a bit because now my subscriber growth has been substantial since then. So maybe if I reintroduced it, it would catch on a little bit better, which is what I've thought. Like maybe I could revisit some of these older shows, but it's going to take a lot of time, which I don't have at the moment. So it's going to be something that sometime in the year 2019, you might see one episode of Pitch Wars. This is like a test thing to see if it's something people actually want to watch now. But if we don't do another one, I'm totally glad that we have that one, because that one is probably my favorite thing that I've ever done on my channel. Even though I do horror stuff predominantly, that how awesome and fun and how excited we were sharing those two scripts just piece by piece by piece, and unfolding things as it goes. It was just, it couldn't have worked out better. So if you guys have not seen that video, definitely check it out. It's an hour and a half long, so put the kids to bed early, but it's a really fun video. Durbin shares his version of what he wanted Justice League to be before we actually saw Justice League. And I shared my version of what I wanted the first standalone Batman movie to be. So it's a really cool video.
I actually still think about your standalone Batman movie, Cody, and I mourn for what the DCEU missed, because really, if between BVS and Man of Steel, they put your Batman movie in there, I would have been so much more infinitely happy about things.
Oh, man, I'm telling you, even writing that thing, I was just like, this is great stuff. Why don't they use it? And it didn't come up. I'm like, I'm a fan. I know a little bit about comic books, and I'm just kind of coming up with this stuff. Like, it shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah, I know. I made up most of my Justice League stuff on the spot. I wrote some stuff down, but then I improv most of it while we were going. Oh, man. All right, let's see. What's another good question do we got here?
Well, I see who is the villain for the Batman movie, which we don't know, but I'll flip that question around and ask you, who do you want to be the villain in our first Batman movie?
Oh, man. You know what? I would love to see Deathstroke. That would be awesome for me to see. I mean, we saw him at the post-credit scene in Justice League, and he's such a great character in Arrow, and they ripped him away from Arrow to belong to the DCEU. So let's make use of that, and let's make that guy the villain. I would love to see that dude go up against Batman.
I would love to see that, and if they're going to do a really high-octane, action-packed movie, that would be the perfect villain to do. On the other side of that, because of my horror roots, and also because you had mentioned the Arkham games earlier, which got me thinking, I would love to see a really dark version of the Riddler. I want to see a Riddler who's like Jigsaw from Saw, which is pretty much what he is in the Arkham games. He wants to outsmart Batman so bad that he sets like these trap rooms to try to get him to solve it. Otherwise, he has to die in a really violent, gory way. Like, I know they're going to have to limit it to a degree, but that to me would be a really cool, interesting tonal shift for the universe, a tonal shift for a Batman movie, and a tonal shift for the Riddler, because the only Riddler we've ever had is Jim Carrey. So I think that would be cool.
You're right. Oh, man. Yeah. I would love it if they just did all the Arkham games, because that would be a one good way to catch us up on the Batman villains and the DCEU in one movie. And if you write it right, kind of like, of course it's a game, so it flows differently because you're playing it, but the storyline of that game, all three of those games, was just so incredibly good. If they could just find a way to script that, put it in a movie, maintain a good balance, what a great way that would be for us to meet all of these villains in the DCEU style. That would be kind of cool.
I agree. And even if they don't do that, if this Joker movie succeeds, I'd like to see things like that get standalone green lights. You know what I mean? Like, okay, we're going to do a couple Arkham movies on the side while they're figuring out what to do with that Batman movie. Good, do it. You know what I mean?
Yep. Poolstroke says, has anyone ever called you Turbania? No, but in high school they called me Turban instead of Durban, so that's pretty close. Oh man, let's see. Should the next Batman movie follow the Earth One universe as a change of place? You know, I don't know. The only way I think an Earth One Batman universe would even work in the present DCEU is if we do a total flashback. I think that's the only way that would work. I don't think we could press forward. Have you read Earth One, any of the Earth One comics, Cody?
I have not.
They are very unique standalone perspectives on the characters. They shift things around and stuff like that. For instance, in the Superman Earth One, this is a slight spoiler, but they do it in such a way, Lex Luthor is Lex squared. He's married to this woman, Alexa, and she is wicked evil, more so than him. And he ends up dying, and she blames Superman, and she says, call me Lex Luthor. And she's like super wicked. And so they have these unique, different spins on certain key characters. They put unique spins on their origin stories. And so there's only 2 volumes for Batman Earth One, and they're both kind of origins. And so they're just cool. They're really interesting. But I don't think it would work unless they did it a prequel, which I'd be happy to see that. But I really all for gung-ho move forward. Let's see. What is the best DC show?
The first 2 seasons of Arrow.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to go with too. Because I'm having a hard time picking what would be my favorite now. But let's see. Could they go ahead and do something along the lines of James Bond and simply roll the cast over as the universe progresses?
I don't think so.
I don't like that idea. I don't like that idea. I don't think the James Bond model works for our superheroes as well.
No, it doesn't at all. It's because they might be able to just quickly change the cast of one character and just everybody just kind of has to get on board with it. And if the movie is good, people will get on board with it and they'll forget about it within 15 minutes. It will work as long as they do it right. But as far as just throughout okay, well, Gal Gadot's done now. Let's just change her over to Michelle Pfeiffer. You know what I mean? Or, let's, Aquaman. Jason Momoa is done after Aquaman 3. So Aquaman 4, we're just going to change him over to somebody else. I don't think that model would work in successful like concurrent universe. You know what I mean? They can do the War Machine thing once probably, and that's about it.
Let's see. How about another Penguin in Batman? We talked about that a little bit because they talked about how in the Matt Reeves Batman, Penguin was going to be the villain, but then they could copy and paste any villain in the same script and it would work. I mean, what do you think a DCEU Penguin would be like?
I don't know. I've never really been all that interested in Penguin, to be honest with you. I don't really like the really weird version that we got in Batman Returns. Just the standard gangster short guy Penguin doesn't really seem like that much of a interesting threat to me. I'm sure there's fantastic comic book storylines with Penguin that would probably change me on that, but just as right now, even in the Arkham games, when I see Penguin's just never really been all that threatening of a figure to me. So I'm really not a fan of even putting Penguin in the movies. I'm sure we're going to get him eventually because he's one of the most popular Batman villains of all time, but he would not be my first, second, or third choice.
Yeah. Here's an interesting question, Cody, from Joe E. Carol 3. How would you guys rewrite the CW Arrowverse? You want to know how I'd rewrite it, Cody?
Yeah, go ahead.
No Supergirl. No, what is it? League of Tomorrow, whatever they are. None of that. But take Arrow and Flash and tie it into the DCEU. That way, you never would have had to have worried about all these origin stories. And it could have kept Arrow and the Flash on the straight and narrow on the CW, because now that it's part of that tone, it's got to, maybe straighten things out a little bit. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know if I would tie it in with the movie universe because it seems like that caused nothing but problems for Marvel. But
It didn't cause
I
any
don't.
problems from Marvel. They just ignored altogether.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, they're like, you're not a part of our universe. I don't know who's this guy. They just kind of flick him away. But
Yep.
yeah, I don't know, because the first 2 seasons of Arrow I thought were fantastic. The first 2 seasons of Flash I thought were fantastic. Honestly, I dropped interest in Arrow as it started to become a bad show, and I kind of dropped interest in Flash because there was too many bad shows that it was surrounded by and tied to. Because I didn't like Legend of Tomorrow at all. I didn't like Supergirl at all. I didn't like what Arrow was doing at all. Flash started to dip in quality a little bit, and I just kind of just lost interest in the whole universe. But I think for a while there, they had it great. You have Arrow, who's kind of like your Batman. If they would have just kept the writing good and not
Yeah.
where they screwed up with Arrow was they kept trying to go bigger and bigger and bigger. They went from the initial team of Oliver and Felicity and what's his
Diggle.
buddy's name?
Diggle.
Diggle. Yeah, when they had that initial core group, it was awesome. And the whole
Yes.
concept of keeping your identity secret and everything, all that stuff worked. In the first 2 seasons, basically anybody outside of that group that found out his identity got killed. His
Yeah.
mother, I don't remember if she found out his identity or not, but like everybody that would have had huge stakes for finding out his identity was killed. When they screwed up is when they started incorporating Felicity, or not Felicity, uh, Laurel, and they started incorporating, like, it seemed like every single person that Oliver met, he just like, hey, I'm actually the Green Arrow. You want to join my team? And
Yeah.
when it turns into like a 7, 8 people team, it fell off the rails along with the writing. So if they would have kept it small scale and just kept it that way, then I think Arrow would have succeeded a lot more. Flash, I didn't watch much of Flash after halfway through season 3, so I don't know what to do to change about that one because I didn't
Yeah.
really see what dropped
Flash
off
is
about it.
really, really bad about his identity. You talked about Oliver doing that with everybody he meets. The
Hmm.
Flash, even more so. It feels like everybody that he meets, he's like, "Hi, I'm the Flash. Oh, let me take off my mask so you can trust me. My name is Barry Allen. Here's my
Hmm.
home address in case you ever need to stop by. Here's my phone number. Oh, and in case you ever need anything else, here's my social security number and anything else that you might need to directly identify me." And it's like, dude, just run around without a mask. Okay, that's even more simple than you want everybody to trust you that you saved, so you reveal your identity to them. And I was just like, oh, come
Hmm.
on. And I made jokes about that every episode when it was on. So yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like, at least for the bit that I was on it seemed like where Flash started to get redundant was that it kept doing the same things. He was always
Yep.
versus a speedster. He kept trying to go back in time and fix things and would just make things worse. They kind of teased the Flashpoint storyline and they wrapped it all up in 3/4 of an episode. So
Yeah.
as far as other people to bring in, they should have focused on notable people, but kind of stick to the beat. Not that Flash and Arrow are B level, but stick to Cyborg, like these characters that everybody knows, but aren't necessarily like Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman. You know what I mean? And just kind of try to build great shows like that. And if everybody that seems to like Gotham that watches it, but that would have been like a good idea right there. Like, start to get shows that kind of fill out these other sections of the DC universe and have your own little universe that doesn't just, it's always worried about the tie-ins. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
don't know. I haven't watched enough of it to say 100%. I
I
dropped off on it long ago.
Yeah, this is the first season I dropped off on it, and I'm gonna wait till it's on Netflix because I'm hooked enough that I want to know how things are gonna end, but it's just getting too convoluted and too tedious for me.
Yeah.
Comic Chat says this, bringing it back to the cinematic universe. Do you think the Joker movie should have an Elseworlds logo in the beginning? Do you think that'd make it easier?
Um, I'm sure they're gonna have something, but I don't think a logo is gonna make or break people's understanding of it
Yeah.
not being in the universe. I think people are either gonna know going in, or you're gonna get questions for the first year the movie's out. Like, is he gonna show up in Justice League 2? We're gonna get those comments in our reviews. Like, I hope he fights Ben Affleck soon. No, something totally separate.
Yep. Yeah. So here's something kind of weird. So speaking of separate, I already know the answer. They're separate, but
Mhm.
it's still weird. So you have the Joker, and it's the 80s, and you have Wonder Woman 84, which is 1984. And I'm
Mhm.
kind of like, what is with this 80s kick? It's kind of
Mhm.
weird that this Joker movie's in the 80s and this Wonder Woman is in the 80s. And what we talked about in our last state of the DCEU, where they said in that panel that, oh, it's not really this Wonder Woman's not a sequel, it's just, a Wonder Woman movie. It's like,
Mhm.
is did these two movies connect? Like, I know they don't, but it's like one of those weird things. It's like, why did two
Mhm.
movies coming out somewhat in the same season, pick the 80s. It's so weird to me.
I think it's just the nostalgia craze right now. The 80s is the best time in the world right now. Like, everything. You got Stranger Things. We got movies
Yep.
like Summer of '84. Everything is 80s throwback. So I think Wonder Woman, I don't know the storyline they're going for. So maybe there's just a great Wonder Woman story in the 80s that they wanted to tell. Joker, I think that's just a visual thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I think both of them hit at the same time just because Mother Mayhem just chimed in too and said the same
Yep.
exact thing because the 80s are hot right now.
I think
Hansel,
that's
man. Hansel's so hot right now.
I think movie studios are acting like YouTube channels. Oh, this is hot. Let's do that. So you'll subscribe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Let's see.
Nostalgia's the craze.
Let's do just a few more questions here, guys. So throw us some like 3 DCEU questions in here right now that you all have been dying to ask Cody and I in a state of the DCEU. So let's do some 3 big ones. JD Wilson, think we'll ever see a big screen Teen Titans movie?
No.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Cody.
I don't think the Teen Titans are big enough to have like a real theatrical release. I think it succeeded just fine as a cartoon.
Yep.
What was it? Teen Titans Go to the Movies or something like that.
Yep.
It's either going to be that or it's going to be the show Titans. Like that just lends itself to those types of things a lot more. An animated movie or animated series or a TV series. I haven't watched Titans, so I don't know if it's any good, but it seems like something that works more for that. Exactly what I was saying with the Arrowverse. So like a Titans show.
Yeah. Yeah, and they do have that Titan show now on the DC streaming service, which I don't know. I have the trailers I've seen kind of take me back and forth on it, but it's because I don't like what they've done with Batman in those trailers. But Sean Austin has a very good question here. What are your hopes and fears about the Wonder Woman sequel? I know my fears are that Chris Pine is back, and he had a great death in the last movie. And my fear is that they will undercut that death. That is one of my biggest fears right now with Chris Pine being back. How about you?
I am right there with you because that's one of the most powerful moments of the movie, and that's probably the most powerful thing about Wonder Woman is that relationship between her and Steve Trevor, and that's part. It just makes the whole movie work. Their chemistry with each other, kind of that fish out of water, and the soldier trying to be the good soldier, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, if they bring him back, a la Kingsman 2, where it's like never mind, he didn't die in that awesome scene in the first movie. He's just back because that's going to really suck. And it doesn't matter how good the movie is. That's going to be a huge stain on my enjoyment. So I'm right there with you.
Yeah. I actually kind of hope that maybe he's just stuck in her head. Like maybe for 40 years now, she just hasn't been able to get him out of his head. And every once in a while, when she is having inner dialogue, it's like he's there in their dialogue. Like, I could live with that.
Like a Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Yeah, so I could live with that. And I kind of would hope it's that. My biggest hopes, though, is that this movie is just as epic as the first one. So Wonder Woman was so good that first time through, and it was so surprisingly good that I just really want this one to do the same.
Yeah, I'm hoping the same thing. I'm hoping they get some really good side characters for her to interact with because now, obviously, they.
Did I lose you?
Am I still here?
Hello? Yes, you're there. Okay. Yeah,
okay.
You went
I was
silent
talking
on my end, and I was like, "Oh no, where did you go?"
But yeah,
awesome.
no, that's my hope too. That it's as epic. I just think that they have to give her good enough side characters to keep her chemistry going because I don't think timeline wise they can bring any other characters back from the first movie because it's been too long if it's in the '80s. But if you have Steve Trevor back at least in some form, depending on how they do it, that might be enough. But my hope is that they give her an awesome villain because that seems to be the main complaint that I hear about Wonder Woman is that nobody liked the 2 Nazi characters, Dr. Poison and what's his name, or the final reveal of Ares at the end. I was cool with Ares. I thought the other 2 villains were a little bit too hokey at times with their performance, like when they're laughing behind the door and stuff like that.
Oh, that's the worst scene in the movie. But yeah,
that is, yeah. But I was actually cool with the final reveal of Ares. I need to rewatch it. Maybe my first impression was not going to be my last impression, but I hope they give her an awesome villain like the villains in Aquaman. That's my biggest hope.
Yeah. I'm trying to scroll through here and listen to you at the same time and find like that one last really good question here before we kind of wrap up our final thoughts and call the night. Because we've been going for a while, but man, people have been sticking around, so that's always really fun. So let's see. Any questions jump out at you in here, Cody, as you're scrolling through?
Let me scroll and see.
I mean, there's some pretty good ones, but
yeah. Trying to see one that we could talk about for a good 5 or 10 minutes. There's like a
that's
good
what I was thinking.
finale.
A good finale question. What do you think of that one from Comic Chats that just now popped up?
Would you like the Snyder cut?
Yes.
I mean, yeah, we kind of touched on that. Of course, we'd like it because Justice League was not very good at all. So it could only be better if
Yeah.
being one cohesive vision. Let me see.
I think it'd still be a problem though, seeing as how it was originally written to be a two-parter. So no matter what, we're going to get a condensed down version of what could have been.
Yeah. Mother Mayhem asks, how did you feel about the Flash casting and who would have done it better? I only asked because I hate that kid.
Oh, man. I don't know. Like, I think he's okay. I really do. And I think he's got some good moments in the movie. He's not my favorite. I do like the CW Flash a lot. I like that Barry Allen a lot.
I would have liked to have seen Logan Lerman. I think
Okay.
Logan Lerman would have been cool because he was up for Spider-Man, and I was like, I could see him as Spider-Man. And Flash has a similar kind of personality. He's not quite as much of
Yeah.
a crap talker, but he's that kind of young, naive kid. I think Logan Lerman has been really good in movies like Perks of a Wallflower. He was really good in Fury. And I think he could do something good in a role like that. So he might be a little bit too baby faced for what they were going for because he certainly looks younger than Ezra Miller. But that would, if just rolling spitballing off the top of my head, I'd like to see him as the Flash.
It's always hard for me to say who I want to see as certain superheroes because I don't know. Like Superman is so iconic. It is hard for me to cast who I think has that look in everything. And it's kind of the same thing with the Flash. Like I like what they gave me in terms of the actor playing him on the CW. I think that's a really good version of Barry Allen. I don't hate the Flash in the Justice League movie. I just think the movie around him is pretty bad. And a lot of stuff that he was given to do in the movie was pretty bad. And he runs weird. Like I don't know what that is or whatever.
It was like he was skating.
Yes. Like, and I don't know. That did not work for me at all. Oh, man.
Yes, I'm watching my language. I had a little slip up earlier, so I'm trying to be extra careful.
Oh, you're fine.
Somebody noticed. They're like, look at Cody. Let me see.
Oh, man. There are some good questions here, but I agree. We need a really good one. A solid, juicy, meaty one.
Let me see here.
There's some good MCU questions here. How do you feel about the X-Men Phoenix movie coming?
Hey,
and my
why
answer
not?
is numb. Go on.
X-Men Phoenix, yeah, okay, I could talk about that for a while.
All right, let's do that. Yeah,
even though we're totally and kind of switching gears, but at the same time,
that's okay. Why not? We're live. We're having fun with our people. So yes,
exactly. I could not wait for Dark Phoenix whenever I heard that they were actually doing it because I absolutely love the Fox X-Men films. Yes, they've had a couple bad ones. Last Stand was terrible. X-Men Origins Wolverine is terrible, and that's really about it. Like the rest of them, I think X-Men 1 and X-Men 2 especially are awesome. Like X-Men 2, X-Men United is probably in my top 10 comic book films of all time. I love that movie.
Yeah, X-Men United is amazing.
You get to I think that the Wolverine, especially if you watch the unrated cut, is a really good movie. It falls apart a little bit in the end, but I still
love
really
the
like
unrated
it.
cut. Yeah, yes, I've watched that. It's good.
Yes, Logan is probably in my top 3 comic book movies of all time. Love Logan. Obviously, I love Deadpool. So I am a huge fan of Fox's Marvel films, or the X-Men films at least.
Yeah.
And even though Apocalypse was a big step down from Days of Future Past, I still enjoy that movie overall. There's just a couple of issues with it. There's the focus once again on J-Law, her I'm blanking, what's it? Mystique. Focusing too much on Mystique. She's never supposed to be a main character. She shouldn't be a main character. I don't care who's playing her. Apocalypse wasn't as epic as he could have been. The third act certainly went cliche with just the floating garbage and Magneto just kind of floating
Do
around
you know
like
who
this.
Apocalypse reminded me of? Ivan Ooze from the
Yeah,
1995 Power
yeah,
Rangers movie. I couldn't get it out of my head. I tried. I couldn't get it out of my head.
yep, exactly. A lot of people were saying that, especially when they released a picture of him. But I really liked the new cast of the Young X-Men. I really
Yeah.
liked them, every single one of them. So that was the one thing that worked. And I'm like, okay, well, the one thing that's going to be carrying on in this universe worked. So that's cool. So seeing them revisit the Dark Phoenix storyline, trying to do it right and make up for the huge mistake of The Last Stand with this new cast, I was like, I'm all for it. Please go ahead and do it. You don't have any baggage. You don't have to try to include cameos. You have a total clean slate. Absolutely zero reason why this should not be awesome. And then you start hearing the drama. You start hearing about Disney acquiring Fox, and there's possible reshoots and retooling. And then they released that first trailer, which I got to be honest is probably the most bland, vanilla trailer I've ever seen for a Fox Marvel film. It didn't
Yeah.
look bad. It just looked like it was full of everything that we have already seen in this franchise numerous times before. Dark Phoenix is supposed to be epic. It's supposed to be, dark. It's supposed to have a little bit of cosmic aspects to it. It's supposed to be, really like epic. This trailer does not scream epic to me. It screams, here's an X-Men movie because we're bored. You know what I mean? First trailer, maybe I'll see another trailer and it'll be awesome. Maybe all these reshoots that they're talking about doing is going to fix all that. But it's also a first time director, too. It's the guy who's been producing all these movies, and it's his first time behind the camera, which is always a dice roll. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Fascinating.
I
Fascinating.
I hope so much that it's awesome, because if it's not, then you might as well just Disney's going to have it and everybody's going to get recasted. The whole thing's going to go away.
Well, I
But
feel like that's where it's going anyway. Like, I not anytime too soon because you don't want to do
kind
that too
of,
soon. But I do
yeah,
think we're gonna head that direction anyway. I don't
kind
know.
of. I hope that they end it on a great note. I would hate for all of the effort of, Days of Future Past kind of getting rid of The Last Stand and the Wolverine mistake and all these things to kind of reset the stage, to follow it up with Apocalypse, which is a bit of a miss, but then you also get this great young cast, and then you could end it on a great note and finally wrap up with a Dark Phoenix storyline that they, have been trying to do right for so long. If they screw it up, it's just going to be like another stain on this version of X-Men for so long, and I just don't want that to happen.
Yeah, yeah, that's the hard thing too. Because if this is closing out all that, we kind of rebooted everything with Days of Future Past. It's you got to end it well. And I think that the reason I'm kind of numb towards this one, I need to increase my X-Men knowledge. I don't have a ton of knowledge base for X-Men. I didn't really grow up reading those
Mm-hmm.
comics. I didn't watch that animated series, which I now eternally regret. So there's just a lot of blanks in there, but I do know it should be good. It needs to
Mm-hmm.
be an epic close and conclusion. But the fact they released this trailer and then the next day push back the release like 6 months to reshoot everything, I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
what? Oh, that can't be good at all.
Yeah, and sometimes reshoots are great, but whenever it comes like out of absolutely nowhere, and there's these huge reshoots, and it gets pushed back to the next year and everything from history recently, that always makes us think, oh, well, that's the first sign of death right there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really worried about that one. I'm really worried about New Mutants too. Somebody brought that up in the
Yeah,
chat, and
yeah,
it's
I'm
kind of
seeing
going through
that
the
right
same
now too,
thing.
just now. Yeah. Yeah, no,
That
New Mutants look really good. And I
yeah,
thought, how cool, a mutant horror movie. And then is it like 2 years now it's been pushed back? It's like, oh,
yeah, which makes you think that they're going to either retool the movie completely, or who knows, delete it. But yeah, that first trailer was like, yes, bring me that now. And that's
yes.
that's one of the reasons that I really love what Fox does, because Fox takes the most risks by
Yeah.
far. MCU
Yeah.
doesn't really take any risks. I love the MCU, but they stick to their formula. DC takes risks that don't pay off. Fox takes risks, and you get Logan, you get Deadpool. You know what I mean? So I
Yes.
saw what you saw. I saw a mutant horror movie, and especially me being a horror fan, I'm like, yes. So then as soon as we get that awesome trailer, they're like, yeah, never mind. So it's kind of
Yes. And for those of you that don't know, Cody and Lee are sort of my horror movie mentors. So a
mhm,
lot of the actual horror movies you've seen as theological analyses on my channel are thanks to Cody Leach, as he's
mhm,
introduced me to so many of these awesome movies. So,
mhm.
oh man, I thought I saw one more DCEU question, but then it disappeared, and it
Let
was
me
kind of interesting.
see.
It was, oh, whoa, I must hit the wrong button on my chat there. Probably would have made it disappear into oblivion, and then me and computers, it would have been gone forever. Let's see.
What DCEU members would have disappeared from Thanos' snap? Nobody. Totally different universe. Let me see.
Oh, man.
Let me see here.
I think Batman would have wanted to disintegrate, though.
Do you guys think that the DCEU should lead up to an Infinity War style event film, maybe like Justice League Darkseid War from the end of the New 52? No.
Not yet. No. And I agree, and I say not yet. We need more Wonder Womans and Aquamans and solo movies to regain trust, to rebuild a base, and once we have that, then we can have a discussion about a lead up to an Infinity War type thing. But I don't even think we're at a discussion yet.
If you mean Infinity War in the sense that we get everybody together for something, eventually maybe. But for just a Darkseid War, and I haven't read the Darkseid War comic, maybe it's wildly different than what it actually sounds like. I don't think they need to do anything that seems eerily similar to Infinity War, even though the argument is fair that Darkseid came before Thanos, and Thanos is absolutely a ripoff of Darkseid. Most comic book movie fans will not see it that way because most comic book movie fans don't actually read the comics. And even if they just put Darkseid in a movie, the first thing you're going to hear is Thanos ripoff.
Yeah.
And so I don't think they need to even tread that water at all. Don't even go down that path. You know what I mean? Like 20 something years from now, maybe, but are we really going to stick with these characters for 20 years in this current timeline? You know what I mean? So I don't think they need to do anything to go the Infinity War path.
That guy said, what if they just use a Flashpoint movie to reboot the entire DCEU? I think we're faced with the same problem because we're just going to say that's a ripoff of X-Men Days of Future Past. Even though that's a storyline, that's where we get the New 52, the Flash reboots the DC universe, so that is part of the story. I think if we use the Flash to reboot things, where everybody's just going to do the same thing and shout, Days of Future Past. I mean, I know I will.
Not only that, but I just don't want them to use that card yet. Like Flashpoint is just such an awesome storyline. It's such an awesome movie out there somewhere. Like that is like your Civil War. You don't want to use that as a get out of jail free card. You want to just kind of keep your I would like for them to use it eventually, but maybe like 10 years from now, like towards the end of where we're like towards the end of one or two of these characters' life. You know what I mean? Like Gal Gadot's getting ready to get out. Maybe Ezra Miller's getting ready to get out. Okay, we're going to do Flashpoint now. Because in Flashpoint, I don't know if you read the storyline, but he goes back in time. Batman is no longer Batman or Bruce Wayne. Batman is Thomas Wayne. Bruce Wayne was the one that died, and Thomas Wayne is this darker version of Batman. Then you get into this huge epic scale war where Shazam was murdered. You've got the Amazonians. The Amazonians having this epic. Yeah. So like, there's so much in there for just an epic movie. Like, on the scale.
But you gotta have that base. You got to build a Flash universe, get to know him in Central City, know his world as it is. You got to do more Wonder Woman movies, Aquaman movies, Superman movies, Batman. Like, you got to take the time and build this universe. So when that change happens and it's that dramatic, it affects us. So we are nowhere near ready to pull that off right now. I mean, the Flashpoint Paradox movie is pretty good. It's a pretty darn good movie, but it's for the cinematic universe, it's the same thing with the Avengers and the Thanos snap. If they did that as the first Avengers movie, that would have stunk.
Yeah.
But the fact that they built everything up when he snapped his fingers and half of them died, it meant something. So if we want the Flash to reboot, it's got to mean something.
I totally agree.
Yes. Well, how are you feeling right now, Cody?
I think we can work towards ending at 11:30 on the dot. I think that's a good round number there.
All right.
We can just we could take a few more questions, and then right when it gets to maybe 11:28, we'll ask or answer our last question. Because I'm enjoying what we're having.
I know this is kind of fun. I love doing the live things just for stuff like this. Muzzy Films, are there any good comic book movies with a hyper-violent style like Upgrade from this year, waiting for that hard R superhero with an epic action?
Forgive me, Durbin, but I'm gonna have to swear. Kick Ass.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, Kick Ass.
I haven't seen Kick-Ass 2. I've only seen the
Mhm.
first one. I haven't seen the second one. So
Two, two is good. Like one is awesome. Two is at least a letter grade, maybe a letter grade and a half down, but it's still good to watch. But I'd recommend both of them. But those are really good. Most people don't realize these are comic book films, but A History of Violence, which is a David Cronenberg film with Viggo Mortensen, that's a very violent movie.
yes.
That is a comic book film, and you have it's not necessarily gory, but it's certainly a violent movie. Road to Perdition with Tom Hanks. It's kind of like a gangster flick. That's
I haven't
also a
seen
comic
that
book
one.
film.
Yeah, I
That is
missed
a
that one.
really good one, where his whole family, except for his oldest son, is murdered, and him and his son go on like a quest for revenge. It's a really good movie, and that's also based off a graphic novel. So if you're going to talk technically those are Lindsay.
Yep.
Just brought up a great one, Sin City. Sin City's a great one.
Yes. Sin City is a good one. I haven't watched that in a long time. I've had no desire to watch the sequel, but I did
Hmm.
enjoy the first. What about Brightburn, Cody? What do you think? Because Brightburn looks
I
like it's
have
going to be pretty darn violent.
I have not even watched the trailer because that's a movie just here and based off of what everybody's saying, what it's supposed to be. That's a movie I want to walk into blind, so I'm avoiding the trailer for it.
That's actually probably pretty smart. I watched the trailer and I didn't even know what it was. So as it got deeper into it, I was like, "What is this, Superman?" And then as soon as it got into it, I went, "Oh!" So yeah, no, good. Go into it
Mhm.
blind.
Exactly. What's up, Drum
Yes.
Dumbs? Drum Dumbs joining us.
What's up? One of my
All
one
right.
of my mentors.
Yeah,
Let's see
exactly.
here. Violence for the sake of violence. A good movie that's violent for the sake of violence. John Wick. I know those are not comic book movies, and that goes
Oh yeah,
off
absolutely,
the rails here,
absolutely.
but I cannot wait for John Wick Chapter 3. And if you want something that is straight up action and violence, it sets up its own universe, creates its own world like any good comic book movie would, and it's awesome.
Here's a good one. Unsightly Vinyl says, "Do you think there should be a Harley Quinn standalone movie?" We kind of touched on it earlier, but just specifically a
Yeah.
Harley Quinn standalone movie, I would be fine with it after we get to see maybe a little bit more with her and Joker, because
Yeah.
Harley and Joker are so synonymous with me, and we just didn't get enough of them in Suicide Squad. All the
No.
problems of Suicide Squad, but that was the thing. Like seeing those two characters on screen together was one of the things that I really liked, and it just was not enough. So I want to see a full movie with just those two. Maybe, hopefully, with Batman running around or a Batman movie with those two. I want to see those two together before I see her off doing the adventures of Harley Quinn.
And that's why I'm not excited about Birds of Prey. It's why I'm not
Yeah.
excited about Suicide Squad 2 or any other Harley Quinn movie because man, I want another thing with her and Joker. I want to see how that works. But that movie with her and Joker, I want freaking Batman in it. Just
Hmm.
just put those three together and let me have the dynamic of Batman, Joker, and Harley Quinn, and let's see how that all plays together. I think Margot Robbie is great in that role. I really,
Hmm.
really do. But she was great in that role in a really, really bad movie. So give
Yeah.
me a good movie with the right recipe elements, and let's take it from there. And if we, like you said, if we get a good movie where she's with Joker and stuff and we really like it,
Hmm.
I'd be all for it. But I'm nowhere near there right now at all.
Hmm. I'm with you. In John Wick 3, do they kill his hamster? I hope not for their sake.
Oh man. Oh, did he even get it? Wait, Margot Robbie and Jake Gyllenhaal. Is there something with Margot Robbie and Jake Gyllenhaal? Oh well, Jake Gyllenhaal's Batman. That would I don't
um,
know. I just can't see him as Batman.
Maybe. I don't know. Um, do you think the Deadshot solo film would be good? I didn't even know we were getting one of those, but
I did
do I
not either,
think
but
do I think a Deadshot solo film will be good? There was a really interesting story there with him and his daughter, and I think
yep,
they could pull that off. And obviously, Will Smith can carry a film. I mean, as long as they get him with a good script. I mean, the guy made a whole career off of being that guy.
yep,
So they could do a Deadshot. I would probably rather see a Deadshot solo film than a Harley Quinn solo film.
yeah. And I just did a review on Suicide Squad: Hell to Pay. Pretty interesting animated movie. If they did something like that with Will Smith and he's like the lead character trying to get to his daughter and things like that, I would be very interested in that. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Think like a throwback '90s action film with Deadshot.
Yes, I would love a
Mm-hmm.
throwback Deadshot '90s film where he never misses. That would be
Mm-hmm.
incredibly cool. I would like the flashback of how Batman caught that guy. like
Yeah.
right in front of his daughter. That'd be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Let me see.
Anyone like Will Smith in Suicide Squad? I think we answered that. Yes, we did.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Taken with Deadshot. That would be.
Sign me up. I have a
Yeah.
particular set of skills. I can shoot you from here and not miss.
Do you think Titan should have been in the DCEU? We talked a little bit about that. I think the short answer to that is no. They are not ready for that because it's been too rushy thus far, and that's a huge thing to throw in there that doesn't fit yet.
Mm-hmm. Death Wish 2 or Upgrade 2, Cody? I'm gonna go. That's a hard one. I'm gonna go Death Wish 2. Now, here's the reason why. Upgrade is a much better movie than Death Wish, but I actually love the ending of Upgrade as an ending because it's so unexpected and so dark. I don't know if you've seen it, Durbin, so I'm not going to get specific
No,
with it.
I haven't, but I want to, and I want to
Definitely
see
watch it.
Upgrade. I want to watch both. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely watch Upgrade. But the ending to Upgrade, I like as just an ending. Death Wish loans itself to a sequel very easily, and I wish it would get a sequel and they would make it even better and hopefully turn around some people because people hated that Death Wish movie and I have no idea why. So I would rather see a sequel to that and hopefully get a movie that would turn everybody onto the franchise and kind of give Will Smith another action vehicle and give me even more of what I loved about the first Death Wish. And Upgrade, I would love to see an Upgrade too, but if I would rather have one stay as one, Upgrade, because Upgrade ends awesome.
Awesome. I need to see it. And now that I know it ends awesome, I definitely want to see it even more. All right, we're coming down to our last 2 minutes, Cody. Let's see. What are some good ones here? Did you like Venom, Cody? Do you want to talk about Venom on a DC video?
Why not? We already talked about Marvel. Let's talk about Venom and let's talk about what we want from Venom 2. That's a good place to end.
I think so. Let's do it.
So yes, I enjoyed Venom. It was like if I was to rank the comic book films of this year, I put Aquaman at number 1, I'd put Infinity War at number 2, Venom would probably be number 3. I don't know. Venom and Deadpool 2 are pretty close. But Venom is like that middle of the road, very enjoyable comic book film that has a lot of problems and feels like it's about 7 years too late.
Yeah.
Venom, I love Tom Hardy and I loved his kind of back and forth with Venom. I thought that the CGI with Venom and how Venom looked and how Venom acted and how Venom behaved was perfect. That the villain was as forgettable as villains go. The storyline overall, I mean, it was just a reason to get Venom on screen, but it was one of the more just genuinely fun movies that I've seen all year. So I really enjoyed Venom. What I would want from a sequel, and then I will hand it off to you and get your thoughts. Obviously, we're getting Carnage. I would like it to be a little darker and a little bit more serious because Carnage, I feel like, is a character that requires that, not just should be that. Like, it absolutely requires it because he is a psychotic serial killer that becomes a symbiote. Like, you have to have a little bit more of a hard PG-13 on something like that. But I would like it to be a movie that where maybe Tom Hardy has been doing his thing for a while. Maybe I don't want him to be totally good, but I don't want him to be totally bad either. But I feel like it should be a movie where almost like Hannibal Lecter, like Carnage is just toying with Eddie Brock and like trying to almost like the Joker and Batman thing. Like he just wants to have fun with him. He wants to threaten to kill people if Venom doesn't show up. And, then all of a sudden you show up and there's 80 bodies there and he killed them an hour ago. Like something wild like that. I know it's probably not what we're going to get, but I want to see some serious, no pun intended, carnage.
Oh, that's awesome. It's going to be a hard question for me because Venom was so mediocre to me. Like, I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It was right down the middle of the road for me. And if I watch it, I can have a good time with it. I really can. I like the action. I like the relationship between Eddie Brock and the symbiote. That was probably my favorite thing in the whole movie was their relationship. But I said this in my review. What it feels like is they built a fantastic base, and they were so pleased with that base, they forgot to build the middle of the building and skip straight to the roof. That's kind of what the movie felt like to me when I was watching it. I liked what I saw, and I liked what was on screen, but felt like something big was missing. For the sequel, And I'm basing this off of a really old video game. I played Ultimate Spider-Man on Xbox way back in the day. And that's where you could switch back and forth between playing Spider-Man and Venom. And the storyline in that game was really interesting because the symbiote used Eddie Brock because, you know, it was a vehicle. It was there for him. What the symbiote wanted was to attach to Spider-Man because it loved his powers. It loved his abilities and his strength. And so it messed with Peter Parker's spidey senses. So what I want is something like that. I'd love to have Carnage thrown in there, but the main thing that I'd like to see, because I really like the symbiote relationship, I would like to see, since we just established in this last movie that Venom and Eddie Brock are now friends, what would happen if we bring in Tom Holland's Spider-Man? What would happen if the symbiote gets on him and now Venom likes Peter Parker? So maybe the symbiote's torn, but is now addicted and wants Peter Parker because of the powers of Peter Parker, and it messes with Peter Parker's senses and all that stuff. I think that could be fun, and then Carnage can maybe be our main villain, and, you know, this is kind of the distraction that allows Carnage to, you know, do Carnage. So I don't know, like, that might be interesting to me, but I'm basing that off an old video game.
I'm gonna pull out some Pitch Wars magic here. Sorry, I'm gonna pitch the ending after the final fight from Venom and Carnage in the Venom sequel. So I think it's gonna get to the point where maybe throughout the movie, Venom kind of, you know, Venom's the one that wants to bite people's heads off and eats their spleens and stuff like that. Tom Hardy's the one that's like, that's a little bit too much. I think in this movie that dynamic needs to be pushed to where Venom wants to go that extra mile. Venom wants to kill Carnage. Venom wants to kill, I forget the name of Woody Harrelson's actual character, but he wants to kill that guy. Like it's
Right.
over with. I'm eating his face. You know what I mean? And Tom Hardy's like, no, he needs to go back to jail. Maybe he's feeling that moral pull. And I think in that final fight, Venom needs to actually do something to overpower Tom Hardy and kill Carnage violently, or kill him. Yep. And like maybe Tom Hardy didn't want that or whatever. And that causes a turmoil to where in the epilogue or whatever after this fight, they split. Like, you know, like Tom Hardy's trying to rip him off or something, or he's like, get off of me, whatever that needs to happen. And they're done. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you made me kill this guy. I'm done with you. And then you see Venom kind of, you know, crawling away the symbiote or whatever. And then Tom Holland's Spider-Man comes into frame somewhere. Like Tom Holland, either Spider-Man swinging or Tom Holland is walking away, and you see Venom start to crawl towards him or something.
Cody, we got to do another Pitch Wars sometime soon. And when I do it with you, I expect fully to lose, but to sit there and enjoy your story as you tell it. Oh my gosh. Seriously.
Cletus Cassidy. Thank you, Poolstroke.
Oh my gosh.
But I could see that. I think that they need to time it well, because I think I don't know what their contract is with Marvel, but I know that Far From Home, at least for the first contract they drew up, Far From Home is the last Tom Holland Spider-Man film that they were contractually obligated to do at the MCU. So I don't know what the success, the monetary success of Venom, if they're going to pull him back or if they're going to keep him in the MCU. But it would be cool if they could line up the release of Venom 2 to where the next Spider-Man film is coming out maybe a year afterwards, and it's going to deal with the symbiote Spider-Man. And then you can come together with Venom and Spider-Man either at the end of that movie leading into another one, or maybe halfway through or something. It needs to have its own standalone movie without saying. I love Spider-Man 3, but no Sandman, no Green Goblin, yes. Just a Venom Spider-Man.
That's what I want to. And I think that's what would have made Spider-Man 3 brilliant, is if they had that focus. But
yes.
Wow. Okay. Well, it is now
11:35
after. Yes, 11:35 for you, 8:35 for me, and who knows what time for somebody else. Yes. Yeah, I still have a whole evening ahead of me. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, Cody, thank you for joining me for this first ever live State of the DCEU. If you missed any part of this, as soon as we're done, just go back and you can watch this video from the beginning and see all of our DC conversation, but really fun hanging out with you guys, talking DC and Marvel and diving into these movies. So Cody, tell us one more time where we can find you.
You guys can find me. You can just search Cody Leach in the search bar. I should be the first one that pops up, or you can just type in youtube.com/Cody Leach channel, and you will be directed there. Like I said, if you guys are unfamiliar with my channel, I do a lot of the same things that Durbin does: movie reviews, rankings, stuff like that, live streams like this one. I do commentaries once in a blue moon, but it's a horror focused channel. I do talk comic books and other stuff, but it's predominantly horror. So if you're a horror fan, come on over.
Yes, head on over there. Cody is awesome, and Dumb Drums, who was also joining us here for a short time, awesome channel. So make sure you check out all these channels. Thank you so much, guys, for hanging out here with us and asking us questions and joining us in the conversation. Made this State of the DCEU really special to not just Cody and I talk back and forth, but to have you join the conversation with your thoughts. So thank you all so much. Be sure to hit that subscribe button as I figure out now where the sign off button is on this thing.
We're live permanently.
Oh no, we're stuck live. Oh my gosh, Cody, I actually don't know where it is. Oh, that's hilarious. Okay.
Oh man, it should be I'm guessing towards the top of the screen where my leave call button and everything is. I'm guessing it's going to be somewhere up there. But I don't know because I do not see your screen.
Yeah, no.
It should be in the same spot where you had to click go live, I'd imagine. Or maybe is there an X up at the top corner or something like that?
I found you. There it is.
There it is.
This whole screen minimized. See, this is the beauty of live. You get to watch us sit here and wrangle with this stuff. So before it gets worse, I'm just going to go ahead and exit out of here. All right. Thank you guys for joining us.